Hi there, this is Dr. Samurai, a professor in Japan specializing in international social pathology. The topic of my minute lecture today is Mr. Dennis Mahon. You all know the organization called KKK, Ku Klux Klan, right? It says there were three eras in KKK history. The first era was after the Civil. The second era was after the World War I. And the third era was after the World War II. KKK gradually became smaller factions. Okay, and Mr. Dennis Mahon was the leader of one of the biggest faction in that third era, called the Knights of Ku Klux Klan. He was the leader of one of the biggest factions in the KKK's third era. And by the way, he is not the leader anymore. Okay, he is now incarcerated for 40-year sentence for bombing the Office of Diversity and Dialogue, which is in Scottsdale, Arizona. And now he is at Terre Haute Federal Prison. Okay. By the way, do you know how KKK was established? Its beginning is said to be by 6 former officers of the Confederate Army. As you know it very well, it is the symbolic existence of all the white supremacist groups. It denies the citizenship of all the other people except for the Nordic origin. And KKK also denies Catholic, the same-sex marriage, feminism, and so on. It only approves the citizenship of the people of Nordic origin. Okay? I think it is very few people who actually know what the Ku Klux Klan means. Ku Klux seems to mean circle, and clan is a clan, right? So group, right? So it indicates group of the same history or something like that. Ku Klux Klan, the same circle group, to make it very easy. Okay, and it is also known that for lynching and murdering many black people in its history, right? And from here, I would like to talk about Mr. Dennis Mahon, whom I know. Okay, I started to contact Dennis about 10 years ago, I think. I started to contact many people about 10 years ago. There are some before that, and there are some after that, and recently too. But most number of contacts I made was around 10 years ago, And I made up my mind to meet only those people who went to the extreme in each category. And Mr. Dennis seemed to me being one of them. So I contacted him, and the short letter came back, and it was a big surprise that what I found inside his message. It started like this: Dear Dr. Samurai, I am truly sorry for having bombed twice on your major cities during the World War II. I would like to apologize here in the place of our government. We all knew the end of the World War II is very close, and we did not have any reasonable reason to drop two atomic bombs at that stage. Even if we would have dropped bombs, it should have been enough to drop them, a couple of kilometers away from the shore of those two cities, just to threaten Japan to come to the agreement on the conditions of the ending the war. So I here would like to repeat my apology for our government's unthoughtful acts of dropping those two bombs. I was really surprised when I read his message, because I did not expect in the least that I hear such an apology from the ex-leader of white supremacist group KKK, and I was honestly moved by his genuine word. We have very little knowledge, being an island country, that what type of group KKK is. Still, we do not know so well about its nature. It was kind of natural for me to expect kind of a aggressive response based upon the rumors that we hear. But this is why we never should decide on someone or some other group that we have never met before in person or directly. Do you understand? We have to actually see them to know them and judge them. That is an important rule that applies to everybody, I think. And this word that Mr. Dennis genuinely and personally gave us means a lot to those who died in the war, including the honorable spirits of Zero fighter planes who died hoping for the continuation of our country and their family. Although they themselves would never come back, it is of a big emotional release to hear such genuinely, thoughtful, considerate words. And I responded his words saying that no, not at all, and thank you for saying that. I am filled with a feeling of appreciation for your thoughtful words. After all, wars always happen between the government and government, not the people against the people. That's the truth, I think. If each nation is looking for truth and justice, we should be able to find a soft landing spot. Several years ago, when I had the opportunity to interview with higher up in Yakuza organization, he was at the time playing a role in negotiating with other organizations when their interests are against each other. And he confessed to me saying that, some executives of my organization say the way I make a deal with the other organization is too soft and too conceding. I totally understand that. But the other party also has faith. If they feel like having lost their faith, we can never come down to a conceding point, We both have to have this resolution to concede when it is necessary, so that we could keep faces on both sides. That's pretty much what he said, and I agreed with him on his idea. At the time, President Truman, I believe, wanted to use their newly developed bombs and wanted to see how destructive it is. I'm telling you the truth. If you have a gun, you wanted to shoot it, right? If you have a sword, you want to kill the same. If you have a bomb, you want to drop it to see what happens. This is simple human psychology. At the time, what was publicly said was to end this World War as soon as possible. It was necessary to drop the 2 atomic bombs. But those 2 cities were not major cities in terms of strategic military. That superficial reason of dropping the bombs was taken by everybody in America, all around the world. But Mr. Dennis is very familiar with the deep facts of the world history. He never hid that all those world leaders of superpowers were kind of warmongers who wanted to fight to expand their own territory. What he meant was those 2 atomic bombs were used by those warmongers whose names I refrain myself from mentioning. But let's go back to what we are talking about, Mr. Dennis. Now he is serving a sentence under the suspicion that he sent a bomb package to the office of diversity and discussion, right? And I think the attorney who is in charge of Mr. Dennis' case was suspicious of me, because how come Japanese, who doesn't have anything to do with the politics within the United States, want to contact his client, right? Maybe he thought I was part of the spy or something by the government. So I answered honestly, as I usually do. I said I just wanted to learn what white philosophy really is from the very person who was the center of such movement. So I am not interested in what kind of things your trial was talking about. I have no interest in that. That's what I said, and it I think was persuasive enough to the attorney, and our communication started. So in Dennis' case, our true communication started a little bit later than my first contact. In this case, Mr. Dennis is actually a twin, older brother of twin brothers. Younger brother who was always with him, whatever they did, and whenever they did something, was released as being 100% innocent. His twin brother was judged 100% innocent, while Dennis was judged as being a domestic terrorist and received a 40-year sentence. So, just seeing the fact, it was kind of a conflictual. Why the other who was acting together became innocent and only the other half became guilty, right? I think because this was regarding a bomb, ATF was in charge, and ATF used, former exotic dancer Ms. Rebecca Williams. She became a man and woman relationship with Mr. Dennis. Mr. Dennis talked about the bombing of the Scottsdale office on their bed at night. This also seemed a little forceful a little unreasonable way of getting information. Going too far to get some information by undercover. And there must have been some benefit for Rebecca to cooperate with the government side. As I have said, Mr. Dennis is very sincere person. At least in my mind, he is more like a Hitler type. What I'm saying is like he's good at talking, making a speech in public in front of many audience than being a person who actually bomb buildings like Timothy McVeigh and stuff. Do you understand? Like as an expert, the personality of Mr. Dennis is more like into expressing his thoughts and philosophy, and he feels good talking in front of many audience. And a person like Timothy McVeigh is more quiet, silent type, doing things without saying anything, stacking up all the angers inside, then explodes, literally, and just do it. I think he is a different personality than actually do things like that. His younger brother is free, like a zero. Dennis is 40 years. It's like 100, to zero kind of thing. Black and white. Does that kind of thing happen in one incident among those who always acted together? That was unnatural too, And of course, Dennis is saying to me that he has never done that, period, right? Of course, I don't normally take what the person says for 100% as a specialist, but when I see his persona, like a patterns of his behaviors, I don't think that matches the personality. But on the other hand, one thing I didn't like was one of his main reasons to deny his commitment was there was no DNA found in the group. I thought it was too technical. You know what I'm saying? Those too technical reason is often used by those who lie. And let me change the course of my story a little bit. Like Dennis and his brother were brought up in a rural area in the state of Illinois, and he told me, because we have been in communication for 10 years now. He told me, in his high school there was only one black kid, but it's not like he didn't get along with that black kid, but there was only one. And I asked him, so why did you enter white supremacism movement in the first place? And he goes, he was working for National Guard when he was younger, okay? And at the time I think he was in Florida. It was in the middle of a riot. He was very thirsty, so he asked for a glass of water at the house where only a black mother was, and she brought a glass of water to him, but I think she put something poisonous into the water, and after drinking that water he agonized severe stomach ache for a while. The other thing was also when he was working for a National Guard in Florida. At that time, people were coming from Cuba. So many people by boat. He had to transfer them to a detainment center by bus. And after they get everybody off of the bus, he had to clean all the feces and urine they left inside the bus. And those things that poisoned water and cleaning their defecation kind of boosted what his loving father used to tell Dennis and his brother, that his father was very loving father, but was not that positive about black people being in white area, because at the time there were much fewer black people. So that thing that his father used to tell him in his childhood was kind of boosted by those two incidents of being served poisoned water and having to clean inside a defecated bus. That kind of fixed his negative image of the black people, he said. And it was after that he entered KKK. Because of those unfortunate incidents, he embraced a negative image about the black people. Loving the white philosophy as he does, he also likes Japan being pretty much monoracial country. So once he is released from this incarceration, he is saying he wants to visit Japan, where people are not as mixed as it is in the United States. Although now we are having more and more foreign people in our country too. That is happening everywhere. I asked him, so what do you think would be the realistic solution for these racial issues? And what he said to me was, it is economically and physically impossible to fly all the black people back to where they came from. So he believes it is more practical and realistic to decide the area where white people lives and where black people lives and where Mexican people lives and stuff like that, within the United States. I mean, racial segregation, so to speak, is the realistic solution. That's what he said. Carefully thinking though, if things become this bad, we may not be able to avoid the use of violence. Means he is talking about the future and not the past, right? Focusing on that one thing. So his statement of this indirectly denies his past use of violence too. I am not into right wing. I love my country, but I have this unchangeable belief that I would rather be with a kind person of other race rather than being with unkind, cunning Japanese people, because I think that would lead me to more peaceful and happy life, That's the only thing what I'm looking for. So, to be honest with you, collecting all the pieces of information I have on Dennis, I feel negative about Dennis actually did the bombing himself, although I am not 100% sure based on the behavioral patterns and his personality, because he one time boasted of having seen Mr. Timothy McVeigh for one time. In my professional experience, those who boast of seeing somebody famous wouldn't do things like that by himself, period. Those who actually do are more quiet because there's only, this much energy, and this must be used into the commitment of crime, right? But in Dennis' case, big part of this goes this way, and big part goes into speaking. I don't think there's enough energy left to put him into actually acting out. That's my impression, including that his first sincere message about World War II. It's like those who actually do. I have contacted with those people too, but they have this immobile, fixed, heavy something psychological inside, and that I did not feel from Dennis. Dennis is more like being happy, speaking in front of a lot of audience and receiving praise by many audience and stuff. So his personality is different from real perpetrator. So my hunch is negative about his commitment of this office bombing, together with his younger brother having been judged as completely innocent. Those circumstantial information is more supportive for Dennis's innocence. That's what I feel. He is different from those who blatantly lied to me while having actually killed, those girls and stuff. The smell is different from them. By the way, along the same line, he didn't belong to this KKK for such a long time, and I asked him why you get out of the group, and he said those people were too psychologically biased. It was almost pathological, seeing how they react and what they actually do, and the issue of these racial things. So, including also this psychological balance of feeling something going too far, pathological, feeling against getting along with those too much acts, seems against actually bombing the building. If he actually did bomb the building, I think there was no opposition on Mr. Dennis's side to still keep getting along with the current KKK, however much is left at this moment. So this is it for today. It was kind of a like a detective story to together think about whether he actually did it or not. But I think I provided you enough information for you to come up with your own conclusion. Though I am not conclusive, there is this smell that I biologically smell, and that is not the smell of him being a perpetrator. This is it. Thank you very much for listening, and please have a wonderful time up until next time, okay? Bye-bye.